I've been listening carefully to Donald Trump's constant exaggeration about his economic prowess and his references to, quote, failed economic policies of the previous administration, end quote. His constant crowing about the low unemployment rate and strong job creation numbers, like the 225,000 net new jobs created in January, that despite his protestations are in fact a continuation of Obama policies. We also hear a lot about this, a Dow within reach of 30,000, although that's less about company performance or economic growth and more about the pressure that Trump put on his hand-picked Fed chair to lower interest rates, making investments in the stock market more attractive and increasing share prices. And you'll hear about his tax cuts, which he promised would have a trickle-down effect on the neediest of Americans, even though trickle-down economics has been debunked. Here is one place, though, that Donald Trump has done better than Obama in increasing the national debt. When was the last time you heard Trump talk about the nearly $1 trillion national deficit? This isn't the debt, by the way. This is just the current shortfall between what the government spends and what it takes in. This is because the government, since cutting taxes, is taking in fewer tax dollars. As for the debt itself, that's the net accumulation of all of the annual deficits plus interest. It's $23 trillion. That's a number you surely won't hear from Donald Trump. It's a number nobody actually wants to talk about. 3 years into the Trump presidency, and Republicans are kowtowing to the president's whims, forsaking their principles as deficit hawks. And the party of debt reduction, the party that shut down the government over the issue, has now gone silent. But increasing the deficit and the debt means spending cuts have to come eventually. And who does that hurt? The poor. There are reasons to go into debt, by the way, to get out of a recession, to take advantage of low interest rates, to build infrastructure, to provide for social programs. But over the last 20 years, the times we've increased the debt and the deficit the most has been when Republicans have been in power to run wars and to give tax cuts to corporations and the wealthy. Now, in fairness, liberals, as champions of social welfare, have often ignored the swelling debt. But as entitlement programs, things like SNAP, get cut, it's time to sound the alarm on our debt crisis to make sure that the least among us are not subsidizing tax cuts for those who control the levers of power and wealth in America.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.